Hi there, it's Hal Feldman, MiamiHal. It's a Thursday after 2 o'clock. It's the MiamiHal Real Estate Show. And this is the lovely and talented mayor of No, it's not.
No. Oh, sorry.
Michael Miller, thank you
Really?
for stepping in as you sometimes do.
My pleasure.
Karen Cunningham, 2 times in a row. I want you here next time you say you're going to be here. But we move on, right?
Yes.
So we're going to talk some real estate. And since you are a late stand-in, we really don't have an agenda here. But I do want to talk a little bit at the top about hurricane season, because that's what the mayor of Palmetto Bay and I were going to speak about. Have you heard from other communities? Is there preparation? Are we in the right place? I know it's beautiful out today. It's sunny, hot, really hot. And it slips the mind. But hurricanes can happen, and
Yes.
they,
And we know that
will.
August
Yes.
is the number one month,
That's true.
all right,
Yeah.
which is around the corner. And one of the things that we have not seen is too much information, or any information to speak of, about hurricanes. Every once in a while you hear a little something. But because I sense there's other more important things that are top of mind, that preparation is pretty far down the line.
Oh, there's nothing else to think about, just hurricanes, right?
Right.
We're not, still in the tail end of a pandemic and with interest rates and all kinds of other things. So are any of the communities in your mind doing something special and really doing the right things to inform their citizenry, or to create the right environment for having preparations done in
I'm
their
sure
communities?
that some of the cities have their own
Yeah.
newsletters, but it's a bigger picture than that, because it's each of the cities. If they have things, it can raise the awareness of everybody.
Yeah.
But it's responsibility of
Mhm.
the county also, and perhaps of the state, but for sure the county, to raise that awareness. Hey, this is the time to go out and get your trees trimmed, put them out there, because when that storm happens, the county doesn't pick up any of those trees,
That's right. Yeah.
And we know Hurricane Andrew was a perfect example 30 years ago next month, right? I think,
Wow.
right?
That's scary. Yes.
Yes, it is. We were just tall, young, handsome, right? And then you saw what happened. And that storm in 3 days was right there.
Yeah.
We saw it way out there, and it was straight to beeline for us.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, beyond hurricanes, which I jokingly talked to Jav Gonzalez, another one of the real estate agents that often is on the show. There are people coming in from outside our community and finding communities to live in here in South Florida. And hurricanes should be a concern for them. But what else do you feel that outsiders, New Yorkers, Californians, anywhere in the country, or even outside the country, that are coming to South Florida, what should they be paying attention to when we're talking about real estate and where they live?
Look, a couple, as they say, location, location, location.
Yeah.
Now, maybe folks live in other areas where there's mass transportation and people take it. Down here, the people that are moving from other states to come here,
Yeah.
we don't have the type of mass transportation that is acceptable to people that have money, and they're not going to do it. And they're going to buy their house, and they're going to have those couple of cars,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that people really need to consider where they're moving and how traffic moves around them.
I think that's a great topic. So let's spend a couple minutes there. We've got in our local community, we have the old busway, now called Transitway, right? Runs down US 1 from 102nd Street or so, all the way down to into Homestead, right? So we have seen that roadway, that asphalt there for years. And recently, I certainly have seen all the old bus shelter structures come down, and most of them are in complete disarray right now. So we know what the vision is. Talk to me about what people who are coming in from outside the area should see now and what they should expect soon.
So a couple things the way I see it. That's that busway,
Transitway
is a $300 million project split
Right.
between the states, the feds, and the county. And there are going to be fancy buses that are there. And people have said, why can't they be a train? And I think, okay, because what? We'll feel better, right?
Well,
Is that it?
Well, I think it really comes down to the fact that the current project has an M at the end of it, million,
Yes.
and a train would have a B in it.
Yes.
Correct. So
Yeah.
so
So-
it's not happening.
So, and we know the county's been looking into underground tunnels. It seemed to be mostly public transportation. There have been 5 areas that have been looked at. which is years down the road because there are plenty of bees that are involved in that.
Yes.
And it's an issue about how to move around Dade County. We know the county has said, let's change the zoning. Let's try to get the zoning change in the municipalities and as well as the county to allow for building up rather than out. So, and to build these with limited car spots so that people will want to move in them because it's closer to public transportation and they might not need it. I don't know, you know, I'm not being some, but I don't know people that do that, right? And I don't know if somebody would move on 62nd Avenue and 65th Street and walk to the Metro Rail station, right?
I think there's a number of people that would, certainly not the majority, but also even that minority might not do it today because it's ridiculously hot, right?
Yes. So how we change the mindset of people takes a generation to do that. I like to drive. I like to, you know, I'm old school, I guess, pull up in front of the shopping center, park my car and go on to somebody's phone, right? We'll ignore it.
Yeah, we'll give you a pass. It is your studio, so we let you
who
have those
did
mistakes.
So, and we know that takes generations.
Yeah.
But if you can get an apartment building that is within a block or two or three of Metro Rail or buses, all right, then maybe there's a chance that, and the county is adamant about improving the housing shortage, which is gigantic.
Right.
And then the people that would move into those move in because public transportation is nearby. Maybe those are $500,000 and $2 million projects. I mean, buildings, apartments, but for the most part, they're not, right? And then maybe it works perfectly. But I still think that we are years and years and years away from that becoming, I'm going to take the train to work today.
I think so too. And some of the municipalities have tried to experiment with how do you get people from their houses to those hubs to get on this public transportation. So you had, I'll give an example, Palmetto Bay for a period of time, and maybe even they're doing it now, they were actually reimbursing people to take Uber or Lyft to get to one of the hubs and get on the bus. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the results were, but I can tell you in the community that I am aware of, both, you know, by interacting with people and socially on those social networks, I don't think they made a dent in people's mentality of how they're going to get to work and play, right?
And I think you have to change your mindset. People that recycle, people that use electric vehicles, people that do all those things, that have solar panels, those are the folks that are probably going to do that because they're living that lifestyle. But if you're not involved in that, it's like, what's going to cause this one little thing to do it? I think that it would be tough for people, for a lot of people, you know, to do it. And if you live out west, 6 miles from here, God help you.
Horse country?
Yeah, horse country too.
Yeah.
All right, 5.6 miles to work. If I leave when school's open, it's 7 schools, easily 50 minutes.
Wow.
That's why I'm here at 6:30.
Yeah.
Right. And there are hundreds of thousands of people that are faced with that. I don't know if the Kendall Parkway is going to go down to be able to help move people. And as the county commission says, we're either going up or we're going out. Right. And they got pressure from both ends.
Yeah. So was this inevitable? As you know, Miami grew up from the 1980s where there really was a lot less of Miami than there is today. Was this inevitable? Could it have been avoided? And if you believe it could have been avoided, are we learning the lessons today so that hopefully 20 years from now, we're not doubling down on the problems?
Well, let's look at Metro, built, I think, 30 years ago, right? So there was that, you know, that forward thinking, but then it seemed to have stopped, all right? And then there was not that connection. Even with the $1.4-ish billion that the county used as general funds versus going into our streets, even with that, it would have been hard to make a significant difference to everybody in the county. But we know Dade County was the experiment. Broward County says, oh, look down there. Let's make it better up north, which they did, right? And it's tough on what to do. And I certainly don't have any answers, but we know that here at the office, people that live more than 5 miles, you know, we tell them, come in at 10 o'clock. That's all, right? Because they used to come in at 9 o'clock and their eyes, this is before work at home, right? They would be shaking like this. Just stay home, right? Come in when a lot of the traffic is gone, and I suspect there's going to be more and more of that. The state said, I don't know if you still have it, where you have 2 or more people in the car, you get to go in the faster lane. Is that still in effect?
Yeah, in a
Right.
lot of areas. it
And
is.
and do people do that on a regular basis because they can drive faster?
Um, my observation is that a lot of people do take
Mhm.
advantage of that lane, so much so that that lane is just as slow as everything else. So, listen, I know that there's efforts being done throughout the county, at both the local municipalities all the way up to the county level, but we really have to kind of take stock at where we are now, especially with what's going on in the housing market, which is where I want to kind of focus now.
So-
We've got another 20 minutes.
Mr.
approximately.
Professional, what is going on?
Okay, so here's what's going on with our local market. I have been approached by people that keep throwing me stats about what's going on in the country or in Florida or even in Miami when they live in Pinecrest. And the reality is you really can't look at the real estate market at a macro level. You have to look at the micro level if you want to do something there. Because Pinecrest is very different from its neighboring municipality, Palmetto Bay or Coral Gables. So what's happening locally? In general, what I can tell you is we have an environment where the interest rates are creating hypersensitivity among buyers. And we have sellers who are now bombarded with information from newspapers, magazines, radio, television in particular, that are telling them that the market is changing. And so the overarching mentality of a seller today is, oh my God, I think I've missed the top, so I better do this now. I better get on the market. And if you think about it, that rush to get on the market is actually creating a larger problem for those sellers. Here's what I mean. 6 weeks ago, the amount of inventory that was available in Pinecrest was 5 weeks, a month and a week. So
Which is
5 weeks.
Pretty small.
That's incredibly tight inventory
Yes.
levels. So buyers were having problems finding something to go buy. 6 weeks later, what's the number? It's 6 months of inventory. What does that tell you? It tells you it doesn't mean that the closings have slowed down. It means that we are being barraged with new listings. That's what it means. And so as an agent, you kind of interact and weave your day, and you, by osmosis, you understand what's going on. So what I will tell you is the days of a seller dictating what the buyer is going to do with every little detail and saying, if he doesn't do all 9 of these tasks that I'm going to put towards the contract, they're not buying my place. That's gone. In fact, we are now seeing the flip side to that, just getting started, where sellers really have, as buyers rather, really have power to say, hey, I'm going to do an appraisal. And if it doesn't appraise, I'm not buying your place. And that's translating to both national and local statistics, where a lot of the contracts that are made are actually falling through and deals are not completing. So during our crazy days, if you were lucky enough as a buyer to get a contract done, you were closing.
Yep.
Now there's a high likelihood that a contract isn't going to close.
Because it's not going to appraise
It was
out.
like a light switch.
So-
It's amazing.
So let's look at so 3 months ago, people say no appraisal, but when it's sold, it would typically sell for more because it would not appraise out. But doesn't that in itself, when that happens enough in a neighborhood, thereby in and itself raise the value so an appraiser can look at it and go, yeah, that one was 1 million, that was 5
Yeah.
million.
Yes, it did. It did. And you've played Jenga before,
Yeah.
right? So you have this tower of wooden blocks, and then the game is, how do you pull stuff out of there and not topple the tower? And I think that during the pandemic, especially at the tail end where we had all this craziness and markets were going up 27% a year and it was compounding like crazy, I think we're at the point where that tower is about to fall. I don't want to say, I held back on saying crash, because I do not think we're going to have a crash in the real estate market. What I think we're going to have is people are going to wake up to the fact that we had insane times, and that sanity has to come back to the marketplace. And to me, it shifts a little bit each time I kind of look at the market and read the tea leaves. I think by the end of the year, folks in the markets that we're servicing with the show can see somewhere between 10 and 15% reductions in the sale prices of homes. And that really is across the board as a statement, 10 to 15%. I think at the lower end of the market, it's probably going to be less of a decrease. And at the higher end, those multi-million-dollar homes are going to see more toward that 15%.
So is that so? Does that mean therefore more people have an opportunity to buy a house that 6 months ago would have been 10% more?
And unattainable, because obviously as people go to qualify to go out and look for homes, they qualify. Then the interest rate goes up or the price goes up. And even though they still feel like they want that house in that neighborhood, they're not able to qualify. And sometimes that qualification changes after they're in contract. So, hey, you squeaked by, your ratios were fine. We got you into contract and you have an initial approval from the lender, but the interest rate went up 0.5 point, which means monthly you're going to pay this much more. And all of a sudden somebody doesn't qualify. And that's what we're seeing.
How much leeway typically do the banks allow, if anything, or say, no, this is it?
Do you understand the term none? Now, people can get very close to the ratios. And of course, there's little things that a buyer can do. Hey, you're really close to our ratios where you're not going to qualify. So we need you to pay off, this car, or we need you to pay off these 3 credit cards. And then all of a sudden your ratios work for us. But once you hit that threshold, it's federal guidelines. There are regulations to make that a conforming loan. So the answer is, if you're past that line, you're not getting a loan.
So I was just reading that the Fed is considering a pretty big rate increase.
Yeah.
Any projection what pretty big rate increase means?
I don't, thankfully, and I do mean this, thankfully, I don't play in that realm. I stick to what I'm good at, which is real estate. But if I had to hazard a guess, I would say probably another 0.5 point. They obviously have a big task in trying to curb what's going on with our economy. And there's going to be fallout from whatever they do. But the worst of it is if we let this rampant inflation happen, we're all in trouble, right? So they have to do something, but it's not without its consequence.
So
right?
6 months ago, a year ago, we were like, did you get COVID? Did you not get COVID? What's going on?
Now it's like when you got COVID, not if you got COVID.
So life is as risky as was simpler then.
Oh yeah,
than it is now.
For sure.
It's just like massive. Is there any relief from the stress that occurs? Folks, there is. Don't watch TV, all right? Don't read news that you know is bad. And then you become unaware, all right?
That's interesting. And we're kind of departing from what the show typically is. But I think there's some real truth in what you just said. I came prior to doing real estate. My business was news. I was in New York and I was covering whatever was happening that day and putting it out there for people to consume. And I thought I was doing something wonderful because, hey, information is power, right? That's the saying. But at some point, yes, it is powerful, but it can be powerful in a negative way. And so, the stock market hasn't been doing well for me. So I learned that if I don't look at it except for maybe once a week rather than once every hour, I can go about the rest of my life and be a lot calmer and more focused to do those things.
If you look at where 6 months ago, a year ago, COVID led everything. Now, if you watch and then we look at where it is, it's like way down, 5, 6, 7, even though there's a problem with it. People are just trying to present things that people don't care about. All right. So we got a lot of other things to care about now. So you think a 10 to 15% reduction that could occur
between now and the end of the year? I think that we're going to be very happy to see 2022 disappear into the history books.
Same with 21, 20.
Yeah. Well, let's not go there. And I don't mean to be negative. The show really is not about being negative, but you got on the show and we are really throwing everything in the kitchen sink in on a topic.
So it gets to that point, wherever it's going to be, let's say it's January 23. What's going to happen, do you suspect?
My crystal ball kind of fades out around the 6-month mark because I don't think I will have the input that I need to really understand that. But again, overall, I think that we return to a sense of reasonableness where we came from craziness. So people always need a place to live. And even though we have this hyperinflation that's going on now, there will be a return to a more balanced market where buyers and sellers are more evenly weighted. Where that leads with price and how quickly things sell, I cannot necessarily predict, but I think that we will be able to sit and have a conversation with buyers and sellers around a table where neither one of them have to pull out their hair in early 2023. And there's a real conversation rather than I'm the adult in the room and I'm going to tell you how this is going to go. Those days are gone for a while.
So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. And you go, okay, and to feel comfortable enough that you're making a good decision.
Yeah. Right? Real estate agents always get asked, especially, over the last last 2 years, oh my God, you're killing it. It must be a great market. And you love your life. No, most real estate agents really dislike what has happened for the last 2 years because we saw the imbalance and how difficult it was to get something to actually close. Because again, one person was all powerful and the other one was basically a servant, right? And that's not a way to have any market, real estate market in particular.
So you had mentioned that not only do people sometimes look at the entire country or a certain place, and that Pinecrest is different from neighborhoods or Coral Gables different. Sure. But isn't Miami-Dade County and Broward, Palm Beach, the Keys, in and itself sort of this a little bit different than a lot of parts of the country?
Yeah, there are definitely macro environments there that set those 4 counties apart from even the rest of Florida and certainly the rest of the country. In reality, Miami, I'll just say South Florida is still a place that most people feel is a paradise. And there's going to be a continued influx of population to these areas. Yes, there's also an outflow. Things are getting too expensive for a lot of people that have been here all their lives or almost all their lives. But there's more people trying to get in. And we just have to see how that shakes out. I don't think any government controls that flow. We just have to react to it.
So Miami-Dade County is trying to improve the number of housing units in Miami-Dade County. I don't know how many tens of thousands they're behind, all right? Yeah. But it's a lot.
How many years have you been able to say that exact phrase?
Yes.
And there's your answer. I don't think anybody in government is sinisterly trying to avoid that topic, but it's a hard nut to crack.
Yes.
And I don't know if we're ever going to crack it, right?
So many years ago when I was buying insurance for my house, it was a small number. It was no big deal, $100 a month, $200 a month. And tell what's going on now in the home insurance business.
Oh, boy. So first of all, thank you for doing what you just did. That was a perfect question. My next article in the Pinecrest Tribune,
son of a gun,
what do you know, is all about insurance. So that's going to be coming out on Monday, this coming Monday. But the insurance industry is also in turmoil. We have Citizens Property Insurance, which really isn't an insurance company. It's a company of last resort where when somebody else cannot get insurance anywhere else, they're supposed to come to Citizens. And the number of policies that they're writing is insane right now. It's up 50% since last year. That's what the article will say. It also will tell you how all insurance companies, including Citizens, are going through a period of time of incredible risk level. And you say to yourself, what's the risk? There hasn't been storms. I don't understand what the risk is. And then, as the article will point out, the risk is not about insuring somebody and worrying about whether or not they can pay for some natural disaster that occurs or something that happens in their home. But the risk is the costs of defending the suits that are coming from all the claims that are in there. And I don't have the number on the top of my head, but we are at a point where we have the highest number of active lawsuits against Citizens Property Insurance that we've ever had. And every week, I think the number goes up 700 some odd additional lawsuits.
So when we applied for insurance, one of the questions they asked, have you ever hired an outside firm to handle your insurance claim?
All right. So I don't know the fine details of this, but what I will tell you is that they have now at the state level formed a database which is shared among all the insurers that kind of shows not only which homeowner has had claims in the past and what the nature of those claims are, but also which company provided the services to fix those claims. Because as unfortunately you know, South Florida is like the ground zero for fraud in insurance. And it really probably started around Hurricane Andrew, where, listen, we had catastrophic losses in Andrew. And insurance companies weren't prepared the way they are today. And they probably, in a lot of cases, paid out too much for a claim. And everybody's been, getting smarter and smarter since then. And I think people that got away with it during Andrew said, well, I can do this over and over again and make money. I don't know how that ends. Do you?
No, but I know that if I had a claim for my car, it would have to be, I had an accident. It would have to be a lot for me to go to my insurance company.
Yeah.
And do it because just for that
For your
reason,
car.
for my car.
Right.
And I have no problem. Okay, whatever it is, whatever the deductible is, okay. Because I'm acutely aware of what it means that moment. Okay, you had this big claim, 20,000, 30, whatever it happens to be. And on
You're going to pay for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we know that. But
Now,
on the homes, a lot of people don't think.
Now,
Maybe the crooks do.
I'm not an actuary and all this stuff, but with cars, it's very clear to me and anybody that looks at it. If you get a policy and you have an accident, you directly are going to pay a higher premium based on your driving record and what happens with your vehicles. When you talk about a home a homeowner's policy and having a claim, for example, mold, or you have a plumbing issue, you do not have an immediate insurance premium raise because it's not based on your home. It's based on the average of the neighborhood. So there is a difference. And I think people will take advantage of that. We've seen it and everybody's getting smarter and smarter. But unfortunately, just to kind of wrap up this topic, because we're getting close on time, the insurance premiums are going up dramatically. And it really gives people pause, especially those that have paid off their homes and are, basically in the black and don't have a mortgage payment. Do I want to self-insure at this point? One of the people that I interviewed said on average, we're looking at about a 20% rise in insurance premiums from the previous year. And in some cases, 100%. So where do we go from here? If I were in that situation, unfortunately, I'm not. I have to have insurance. I would really seriously consider self-insurance at this point, especially for windstorm.
And as we look at, that's another thing that's getting in the way of people buying homes. You have this huge insurance cost. Yeah. They've increased mortgage rates and increased value.
Yep.
So all of a sudden it went from like party time back when you could buy a home for $100,000 and be okay, all right?
Yeah.
And you got whatever it is. Now it's a massive investment.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed. It's complicated, and I'm going to use this to kind of exit the show. I'm sorry it was a lot of negative topics, but these are important topics. And as you traverse the world of buying and selling homes, it's very, very important that you understand all the facets of what can and shouldn't happen, and to work with the professionals that can help you. I'm one of them for real estate. You've had a lot of people on your shows that do everything from insurance to mortgages and you really have to work with professionals to get things done right.
And again, as we get near the end, you have to have confidence in your advisor and make sure you can make some real decisions that are based upon your position and what the future looks like.
Yeah. Michael, I'll let you take us out. Who should they talk to if they're talking about real estate in South Florida?
All right. right here, Mr. Hal
you.
Feldman.
I rarely get somebody to point that way. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Miami Hal. I'm at miamihal.com. You can learn all about me and what I have as a track record. And I'm here to answer questions. Even if you're not looking to buy or sell right now, feel comfortable to continue to watch the show. You're going to educate yourself that way. And if you have specific questions, get in touch with me. 786-693-2005. Until next week, when I hope I will have a guest. A little tease, Karen. We know you're doing busy, important things, and you're busy. We hope to have you back on the show soon. Until then, Michael did a great job.